The morning sun cast long shadows across the manicured lawns of the All England Lawn Tennis Club as Catherine, Princess of Wales, stood before her bedroom mirror at Kensington Palace. Her reflection showed a woman who had learned to balance the weight of expectation with the lightness of genuine joy. Today felt different somehow, charged with an energy she couldn't quite place her finger on. The Wimbledon men's singles final was always a significant event in the royal calendar, but this year carried special meaning. After months of intense public scrutiny, charity commitments, and the relentless pace of royal duties, Kate had been looking forward to this afternoon for weeks. Not because of the protocol or the public appearance, but because it meant spending unguarded hours with William, watching something they both genuinely loved. She selected a cream-colored dress with subtle detailing, knowing the cameras would capture every angle but choosing comfort over formality. The fabric felt soft against her skin, and the cut allowed her to move naturally, to react spontaneously to the match without worrying about royal protocol. Her stylist had suggested something more formal, but Kate had learned to trust her instincts about when to bend the rules of royal dressing. Downstairs, Prince William was having his own morning ritual, though his was considerably less complex. He stood in his study, reading through the briefing notes his private secretary had prepared about the day's proceedings, but his mind kept wandering. The truth was, he had been looking forward to this day for entirely personal reasons that had nothing to do with his royal duties. Wimbledon held special memories for both of them. It was where they had shared some of their most relaxed public moments, where the formality of royal life seemed to melt away under the summer sun and the excitement of championship tennis. William remembered the first time he had brought Catherine to the tournament as his girlfriend, how nervous she had seemed about the attention, how beautiful she had looked when she forgot to worry about the cameras. Ready for this, he asked as she appeared in the doorway, and the smile that spread across his face was entirely unguarded. Even after all these years of marriage, after 3 children and countless public appearances together, she still had the ability to make him catch his breath. "More than ready," Kate replied, and there was something in her voice that suggested she meant more than just the tennis match. "I've been thinking about this morning, actually. About when we first started coming here together." William moved toward her, and, for a moment they were just a couple preparing for a day out together, not the future King and Queen of England. "You mean when you used to get so nervous about which players to cheer for?" "I was not nervous," Kate protested, though her laugh gave her away. "I was diplomatically careful. There's a difference. You once asked me if it was appropriate to gasp when someone hit a particularly good shot," William reminded her, his eyes crinkling with amusement. "You said you didn't want to appear unroyal in your enthusiasm." The memory hung between them, sweet and tinged with the recognition of how much had changed. Back then, Kate had been hyper-aware of every gesture, every expression, terrified of making a mistake that might reflect poorly on the royal family or on William. Now, years into their marriage and their royal roles, she had found a confidence that allowed her to be authentically herself, even in the most public settings. Their convoy was already waiting outside, the familiar sight of security personnel and royal protection officers going about their methodical preparations. But, as they walked toward the cars, William caught Kate's hand in his, a simple gesture that spoke volumes about the evolution of their relationship. Early in their courtship, such public displays of affection had been carefully calculated, each touch analyzed by royal watchers for its significance. The drive to Wimbledon took them through the familiar streets of southwest London, past the houses and shops where ordinary people were going about their Sunday routines. Kate found herself watching the suburban landscape roll by, thinking about how different their life was from those glimpses of normalcy they passed. Yet somehow, tennis had always been the great equalizer in their relationship. "Do you remember," she said quietly, "that summer when we were still at university, and you brought me to watch your cousin play in a local tournament?" William's expression softened at the memory. "You wore that blue sundress and spent the entire afternoon explaining to me why tennis was the most psychologically complex of all sports. I think that's when I first realized how much deeper you were than I had given you credit for." It had been a turning point in their relationship, that afternoon. Kate had revealed her genuine passion for the sport, her understanding of its mental complexities, and her ability to analyze strategy and player psychology with surprising sophistication. William had fallen in love with many things about Catherine over the years, but her mind had always been what captivated him most. The gates of Wimbledon came into view, and, with them the familiar sight of crowds and cameras. But, as their car pulled through the players' entrance, Kate felt a familiar sense of anticipation that had nothing to do with the public nature of their visit. She was genuinely excited about the tennis, about sharing this experience with William, about the few hours of relative normalcy that lay ahead. Their arrival was met with the usual choreographed efficiency of a royal visit. Security personnel had swept the area, officials were waiting to greet them, and the media had already taken their positions for the arrival photos. But, as William helped Kate from the car, their exchange of glances spoke of shared anticipation rather than duty. The walk through the club grounds was a carefully orchestrated affair, but Kate found herself noticing details that had nothing to do with protocol. The smell of freshly cut grass mixed with strawberries and cream. The sound of tennis balls being struck on the practice courts. The excited chatter of spectators who had been waiting hours for the chance to see their future monarchs up close. "Your Royal Highnesses," the tournament director greeted them with a bow that was perfectly calibrated to show respect without servility. "We're delighted to have you here for what promises to be an exceptional final." William's response was gracious and appropriate, but Kate noticed how his attention kept drifting toward center court, where the sounds of the warm-up were already beginning. He was genuinely eager for the match to begin, and his enthusiasm was infectious. Their progress through the club was marked by encounters with officials, former players, and dignitaries who had specifically requested to meet them. Kate had learned over the years how to give each person her full attention while still maintaining awareness of the schedule and William's comfort level. She had developed an intuitive sense of when he was genuinely enjoying a conversation and when he was simply being polite. Lady Catherine, one elderly former champion, approached her with obvious delight. "I wanted to thank you for your support of youth tennis programs. My granddaughter participates in one of the initiatives you've championed." These moments were what Kate treasured most about their public role. The opportunity to hear directly from people whose lives had been touched by their work, to understand the real impact of their charitable efforts beyond the official reports and statistics. She spent several minutes in genuine conversation with the woman, asking detailed questions about her granddaughter's progress and the program's effectiveness. William watched this exchange with the quiet pride that had become his default expression when observing his wife in these situations. She had developed into something he wasn't sure either of them had anticipated when they married, a genuinely gifted public figure who could connect with people across every demographic and social boundary. As they made their way toward the royal box, Kate felt the familiar flutter of anticipation that had nothing to do with the ceremonial aspects of their appearance. The royal box at Wimbledon had been the site of some of their most memorable public moments together, but also some of their most relaxed. There was something about the shared focus on the tennis that allowed them to be more genuinely themselves than at most other royal engagements. The stewards were waiting to escort them to their seats, but before they entered the box, William paused and turned to Kate. "You know," he said quietly, his voice carrying a note of something deeper than casual conversation, "I've been thinking about this all week. Not the appearance, not the public aspects. Just us, here, watching tennis together." Kate's response was a smile that transformed her entire face, the kind of unguarded expression that photographers treasured because it revealed the woman behind the royal role. "Me too," she admitted. "It feels like coming home, doesn't it? Being here together." The royal box was filling with the usual mixture of tennis dignitaries, celebrities, and specially invited guests, but, as William and Kate took their seats, the energy between them was entirely their own. They had learned over the years how to create private moments within public spaces, how to communicate with glances and subtle touches even when surrounded by spectators and cameras. The afternoon sun was perfect, casting the court in golden light that made the grass seem to glow. The atmosphere was building toward that unique Wimbledon crescendo that occurs just before a men's singles final, when 15,000 spectators collectively hold their breath in anticipation. Kate settled into her chair and felt William's hand brush against hers on the armrest between them. "Ready for this?" he asked, echoing his question from the morning but with an entirely different context. "With you?" Kate replied, turning to meet his eyes with a directness that acknowledged both their public role and their private connection. "Always." The players were being announced, the crowd was rising to its feet, and the final was about to begin. But, in that moment before the first serve, William and Catherine shared a look that had nothing to do with tennis and everything to do with the journey they had traveled together to reach this point. They were about to spend the afternoon doing something they both loved, together, in front of the world. And, for the first time in months, that prospect felt entirely joyful rather than dutiful. The first set unfolded with the kind of tennis that reminded everyone why Wimbledon was considered the pinnacle of the sport. From their seats in the royal box, William and Kate had the perfect view of every stroke, every strategic decision, every moment of triumph and frustration that played out on the grass court below them. What the television cameras captured was the official version of their afternoon, two senior royals fulfilling their patronage duties with appropriate dignity and enthusiasm. What they missed were the smaller moments that revealed the authentic relationship beneath the public roles. The way Kate's hand instinctively reached for William's when a particularly spectacular rally ended. How William leaned slightly toward her to share an observation about the player's tactics. The genuine laughter that erupted from both of them when one player attempted an audacious between-the-legs shot that somehow found its mark. "Did you see that?" Kate whispered, her voice carrying the kind of excitement that belonged to a genuine tennis fan rather than a royal patron making polite conversation. The angle he created from that position was impossible. Absolutely impossible. William's grin in response was entirely unguarded. This was one of the things that had drawn him to Catherine from the beginning, her ability to become completely absorbed in whatever captured her interest, whether it was art history, photography, or the tactical complexities of championship tennis. She approached everything with an intellectual curiosity that never failed to surprise him. Around them, the royal box buzzed with the kind of hushed commentary appropriate to the setting. Former champions offered expert analysis, dignitaries made diplomatic small talk, and celebrities tried to look appropriately appreciative of the tennis while managing their own public image considerations. But William and Kate seemed to exist in their own bubble, genuinely focused on the match unfolding before them. The defending champion was struggling with his serve, double faulting at crucial moments and showing signs of the pressure that could derail even the most experienced players. His opponent, a rising star playing in his first Grand Slam final, was seizing every opportunity with the fearless aggression of youth. "He's going to lose this set if he can't settle his nerves," Kate observed, her analysis directed more to herself than to William but spoken with the confidence of someone who understood the psychological aspects of competitive tennis. "The young one?" William asked, though he knew she meant the champion. "No, the defender. Watch his body language between points. He's overthinking every service motion. The pressure is getting to him in a way it never has before." As if to confirm her analysis, the champion double faulted again, this time on breakpoint. The younger player raised his arms in triumph, but with restraint that suggested he understood the magnitude of the moment. The first set had swung dramatically in his favor. William found himself watching Kate's face almost as much as the tennis. Her expressions were completely natural, unguarded in a way that was rare during their public appearances. When she was genuinely engaged with something she loved, all the careful royal composure fell away, replaced by the authentic enthusiasm that had captivated him during their university days. The changeover gave them a moment to talk more freely, though they were both aware that lip readers and body language experts would analyze every gesture. Kate adjusted her position slightly, turning toward William in a way that suggested intimate conversation while still maintaining appropriate public posture. "I was thinking about that summer we spent in Wales," she said quietly, "when you taught me to analyze serving patterns. You said the key to understanding tennis was learning to predict what players would do under pressure." William's memory of that summer was layered with significance that went far beyond tennis instruction. It had been early in their marriage, a time when they were still learning how to balance their private relationship with their public roles. They had rented a small cottage in Anglesey, far from the constant scrutiny of London, and spent weeks walking, talking, and discovering shared interests they hadn't had time to explore during their courtship. "You were a terrible student at first," he teased gently. "You kept getting distracted by the beauty of the strokes instead of focusing on the strategy." "I still do," Kate admitted with a laugh. "But I've learned to appreciate both the artistry and the tactics. Rather like learning to be royal, actually. You have to master the technical requirements without losing sight of why they matter." It was a remarkably astute observation, delivered with the kind of casual profundity that characterized many of Kate's insights. She had a gift for finding parallels between seemingly unrelated experiences, for identifying the deeper patterns that connected different aspects of life. The second set began with renewed intensity from both players. The young challenger had gained confidence from his first set victory, while the defending champion was showing the kind of determined focus that had won him multiple Grand Slam titles. The quality of tennis elevated to a level that had the entire crowd leaning forward in appreciation. William noticed how Kate's attention shifted between the technical aspects of the game and the human drama unfolding before them. She would analyze a particular shot or tactical decision, then focus on a player's emotional state, reading the subtle signs that revealed their mental condition under extreme pressure. The champions found his rhythm again, she observed as the defender held serve with 4 consecutive aces. But look at his celebration. Still too restrained. He's not convinced he's turned things around. Whereas the young one is trying not to smile, William added, following her analytical approach. He knows he's playing the tennis of his life, but he's trying to manage his own emotions. This kind of shared analysis had become one of their favorite forms of private communication during public events. They could have entire conversations about human psychology, competitive dynamics, and strategic thinking while appearing to simply watch tennis together. It satisfied both their intellectual curiosity and their need for genuine connection during formal occasions. A spectacular cross-court winner from the challenger brought the crowd to its feet, including William and Kate. Their spontaneous applause was captured by photographers, but what the cameras couldn't convey was the shared joy in witnessing athletic excellence at its highest level. These were moments when their royal status felt irrelevant, when they were simply two people appreciating something beautiful together. "Extraordinary," Kate breathed, shaking her head in amazement. The precision required to hit that shot under that pressure, from that position. "It's almost superhuman." "Rather like what you do, actually," William said quietly, his comment directed only to her. "Performing under intense scrutiny with precision and grace." Kate turned to look at him fully, surprised by the comparison and touched by the recognition. "It's not the same thing at all. Isn't it? Different skills, same pressure. Same requirement to deliver your best when everyone is watching, when the stakes are highest." It was typical of William to find ways to acknowledge the challenges of Kate's role without making them the focus of conversation. He had learned to offer support and recognition in subtle ways that strengthened their partnership without drawing attention to the difficulties they navigated together. The set continued with the kind of momentum shifts that made tennis uniquely compelling. Service breaks were exchanged, momentum swung back and forth, and both players elevated their games to levels that justified the championship setting. Kate found herself completely absorbed in the tactical battle, her analytical mind engaged by the complex decision-making happening at lightning speed. "He's going to try to serve and volley here," she predicted quietly, watching the young challenger's body language during a crucial game. He knows he needs to disrupt the rhythm, take time away from his opponent. The prediction proved accurate, and the aggressive tactic paid off with a clean volley winner that gave the challenger another service break. Kate's pleased smile at her successful analysis was caught by the television cameras, creating one of those candid moments that humanized the royal couple for viewers around the world. During the next changeover, a former British tennis champion approached their section of the royal box to pay his respects. The conversation was friendly and appropriately formal, but William and Kate's responses revealed their genuine knowledge of and enthusiasm for British tennis development programs. "Your support for youth tennis has been transformational," the former player told Kate. "The funding and attention you've brought to grassroots programs is developing a generation of players who might never have had opportunities otherwise." Kate's response was characteristically thoughtful and well-informed. She asked specific questions about program outcomes, regional participation rates, and the challenges of maintaining funding for long-term development initiatives. It was clear that her involvement went far beyond ceremonial patronage into genuine understanding and advocacy. William watched this exchange with quiet pride, recognizing how naturally Kate had evolved into her role as a champion for causes she cared about. Her approach was never performative or superficial. She brought the same analytical intelligence to her charitable work that she applied to everything else that engaged her interest. The second set reached its climax with both players serving at their absolute best, hitting spots and creating angles that seemed to defy geometry. The crowd was completely absorbed, 15,000 people united in appreciation of athletic artistry at its peak. In the royal box, William and Kate were equally captivated, their attention entirely focused on the drama unfolding below them. When the set finally concluded in favor of the defending champion after a tiebreak that lasted nearly 20 minutes, the applause was thunderous and sustained. Both players had elevated their games to extraordinary levels, and the crowd's appreciation was genuine and heartfelt. "Now we have a real match," Kate said, settling back in her chair with obvious satisfaction. "Both players have shown they can win this. The third set will be about mental strength more than tennis ability. Who do you think has the advantage?" William asked, genuinely curious about her assessment. Kate considered the question seriously, her expression thoughtful as she weighed the psychological and tactical factors that would influence the remainder of the match. "The champion has experience, but experience can be a burden as much as an asset. He knows how much he has to lose. The challenger has the freedom that comes with having nothing to lose and everything to gain." "So you're backing the young one?" "I'm not backing anyone," Kate replied with a smile that suggested deeper meaning. "I'm just enjoying watching two people at the absolute peak of their abilities compete with everything they have. Win or lose, they're both giving us something extraordinary." It was a perfect encapsulation of Kate's approach to many aspects of life: appreciation for excellence and effort rather than simple partisan support, recognition that the process could be as meaningful as the outcome. As the third set began, William reflected on how much he had learned from his wife's perspective over the years, how her way of seeing the world had influenced and enriched his own understanding. The third set brought a shift in energy that was palpable throughout center court. The afternoon sun had moved to cast dramatic shadows across the grass, creating patterns of light and shade that seemed to mirror the psychological complexity of the match unfolding. In the royal box, William and Kate had settled into a rhythm of shared observation that felt as natural as breathing. What struck William most profoundly as he watched his wife follow every point was how completely present she was in the moment. During many royal engagements, he could sense part of her attention monitoring the schedule, considering the next obligation, managing the multiple layers of awareness required for public life. But, here, watching tennis she genuinely loved, Kate was entirely absorbed in the immediate experience. "Look at how they're both changing their serving patterns," she observed, leaning slightly forward in her concentration. "They've been watching each other so carefully that they're essentially playing chess with tennis rackets." The defending champion had indeed altered his approach, mixing power serves with well-disguised slice deliveries that kept his opponent off balance. The young challenger responded by varying his return position, sometimes standing close to the baseline for aggressive returns, other times dropping back to give himself more time to read the serve. "It's fascinating," William agreed, "how they're adapting their entire game plans in real time. Each point influences the strategy for the next." "Rather like diplomacy," Kate suggested with a slight smile. "You adjust your approach based on how your counterpart responds, but you have to be careful not to lose sight of your ultimate objectives." It was typical of Kate to find meaningful parallels between seemingly different activities. William had noticed over the years how she processed new experiences by connecting them to familiar concepts, creating a framework for understanding that was both analytical and intuitive. The crowd's energy was building with each game, as spectators sensed they were witnessing something special. Both players were sustaining a level of performance that transcended normal competitive tennis, pushing each other to achieve shots and tactical innovations that neither might have discovered alone. During a particularly lengthy rally that saw both players sprinting from corner to corner, making impossible retrievals look routine, Kate caught her breath audibly. When the point finally ended with a drop shot winner that barely cleared the net, she turned to William with an expression of pure delight. "Did you see that? The way he disguised the drop shot until the last possible moment? His opponent was positioned perfectly to defend against everything except that exact shot." William loved these moments when Kate's enthusiasm bubbled over into genuine excitement. Her appreciation for strategic brilliance was infectious, and he found himself seeing the match through her eyes, noticing subtleties he might have missed otherwise. "The mental pressure must be incredible," he reflected. Every decision has to be made in milliseconds, but the consequences last for the entire match. That's what separates the truly great players, Kate replied thoughtfully. The ability to make optimal decisions under extreme pressure while dealing with fatigue, adrenaline, and the knowledge that millions of people are watching every move. As she spoke, William was struck by how naturally she had absorbed the psychological complexities of competitive sport. Her understanding went far beyond casual interest. She had developed genuine expertise through years of careful observation and thoughtful analysis. The fourth set began with both players showing signs of the physical toll that 2.5 hours of championship tennis had extracted. But, rather than diminishing the quality of play, the fatigue seemed to strip away everything except pure competitive instinct. Both men were operating on a level that transcended conscious strategy, relying on years of training and innate athletic intelligence. "This is when character becomes visible," Kate said quietly, watching the players during a changeover. "When technique and preparation merge with who they really are under pressure." The observation was more profound than casual commentary, touching on something fundamental about human nature that extended far beyond tennis. William recognized it as the kind of insight that had drawn him to Kate from the beginning, her ability to perceive deeper truths about human behavior and motivation. "You could be describing any high-pressure situation," he said. "State dinners, crisis management, difficult conversations with family members. Or marriage," Kate added with a meaningful look. "The moments when all the preparation and good intentions come down to who you really are when things get difficult." The comment hung between them with the weight of shared experience. They had navigated their share of challenging times together, moments when the pressures of royal life had tested their relationship in ways neither had anticipated when they married. But they had learned that their strongest bond came from facing those challenges together rather than separately. A service break in favor of the young challenger brought the crowd to its feet once again. The momentum shifts in the match were creating an emotional roller coaster that had everyone in center court completely invested in the outcome. In the royal box, William and Kate were as captivated as any spectators, their royal status temporarily forgotten in the excitement of witnessing athletic greatness. "He's found another level," Kate observed, watching the young player's celebration after a particularly brilliant winner. "The pressure isn't crushing him, it's elevating his performance." "Some people are built for these moments," William agreed. "They discover capabilities they didn't know they possessed when the stakes are highest." It was another parallel to their own experience, though neither mentioned it explicitly. Both had found aspects of themselves they hadn't known existed when thrust into the unique pressures of royal life. The process had been challenging, sometimes overwhelming, but ultimately transformative in ways that had strengthened their individual characters and their partnership. The defending champion was showing remarkable resilience, responding to each challenge with the kind of determined creativity that had made him a multiple Grand Slam winner. His experience was becoming an asset as the match entered its final phases, his shot selection revealing the wisdom that came from having navigated these pressure-filled moments before. "Watch his eyes between points," Kate suggested. "He's not looking at the scoreboard anymore, not checking the crowd. He's completely internal now, drawing on everything he's learned from previous finals." William followed her observation and saw exactly what she meant. The champion's demeanor had shifted from the nervous energy of the early sets to something approaching meditation in motion. He was accessing a level of mental clarity that allowed him to compete purely on instinct and experience. "It's remarkable how different people handle pressure," William reflected. "Some are energized by it, others find calm in the storm. And some," Kate added with a glance that suggested personal reference, "learn to use the pressure as information rather than letting it become interference." The comment revealed something about Kate's own evolution as a public figure. Early in their relationship, she had struggled with the constant scrutiny and pressure of royal life. But, over time, she had learned to process that pressure as feedback rather than threat, using it to inform her decisions without allowing it to paralyze her performance. As the fourth set progressed toward its conclusion, both players began taking increasingly bold risks, understanding that conservative play was unlikely to produce the breakthrough needed for victory. The quality of shot-making reached levels that had even the most experienced tennis observers shaking their heads in amazement. "This is why we love sport," Kate said during a brief lull between games. These moments when human beings transcend what we thought was possible and show us something we've never seen before. And we're experiencing it together, William added, his voice carrying deeper meaning than the words suggested. These shared moments of witnessing something extraordinary. Kate's smile in response acknowledged both the tennis they were watching and the larger context of their life together. They had learned to find meaning and joy in shared experiences, whether they were watching championship tennis or navigating the complexities of royal duty. The fourth set concluded with the kind of dramatic finish that would be remembered long after the specific details faded. A netcourt winner at match point gave the young challenger a victory that seemed to surprise even him. His emotional response was immediate and unguarded, a mixture of joy, relief, and disbelief that resonated throughout the stadium. Beautiful, Kate said simply, and William understood she was referring not just to the winning shot but to the entire emotional moment, the human story that had unfolded through 4 sets of extraordinary tennis. The crowd's ovation was sustained and heartfelt, recognition that they had witnessed something special. In the royal box, William and Kate joined the standing ovation with genuine enthusiasm, their applause reflecting authentic appreciation rather than polite obligation. "What a match," William said as the noise gradually subsided. "Both players gave absolutely everything they had." "And now comes the interesting part," Kate replied, settling back to watch the post-match ceremony. "How they handle this moment when the competition is over and they have to process what just happened." Even in the aftermath of the match, her analytical mind remained engaged, curious about the psychological transition from intense competition to reflection and ceremony. It was characteristic of Kate to be interested in the complete human experience, not just the dramatic highlights. As the players prepared for the trophy presentation, William reflected on the afternoon they had shared. What had begun as a royal engagement had become something much more meaningful, a perfect example of how he and Kate could be authentically themselves while fulfilling their public roles. The tennis had been extraordinary, but the deeper pleasure had come from experiencing it together, sharing observations and insights that revealed their continuing intellectual and emotional partnership. The sun was beginning to set over Wimbledon, casting the court in golden light that made everything seem touched with magic. Soon they would have to return to the structured world of royal schedules and formal obligations. But, for now, they could simply enjoy being two people who had witnessed something beautiful together, two people whose love for each other had only deepened through years of shared experiences and mutual understanding. The trophy presentation ceremony unfolded with the timeless elegance that made Wimbledon unique among sporting events. As the Duke of Kent prepared to present the championship trophy, William and Kate watched from the royal box with the kind of attention that came from understanding both the athletic achievement and the human story behind it. The young champion stood at the net, still processing the magnitude of what he had accomplished. His emotions were barely contained, the adrenaline of victory mixing with the overwhelming realization that his life had changed forever in the space of 4 sets. The defeated finalist stood beside him with the grace that marked true champions, his disappointment evident but tempered by genuine respect for his opponent's achievement. "Look at both their faces," Kate whispered to William. "You can see the entire emotional spectrum of competitive sport right there. Victory and defeat, but also mutual respect and understanding of what they'd both given." William nodded, struck by how the ceremony captured something essential about human nature under extreme pressure. The winner's joy was infectious, but there was something equally moving about the loser's dignity in defeat, his ability to celebrate his opponent's achievement despite his own crushing disappointment. "The runner-up's speech will be the more difficult one," Kate observed. "Victory speeches almost write themselves. Defeat speeches reveal character." As if responding to her prediction, the defeated finalist stepped forward to address the crowd. His words were gracious and heartfelt, acknowledging his opponent's superiority while expressing gratitude for the support he had received. There was no bitterness, no excuses, only the kind of sporting dignity that elevated competition from mere entertainment to something approaching art. "Extraordinary grace," William murmured, genuinely moved by the display of sportsmanship. To find those words in that moment, to focus on celebrating someone else's achievement when your own dreams have just been shattered. Kate's response was wordless but profound, a slight nod that suggested deep appreciation for the human courage they were witnessing. She had always been drawn to examples of people performing at their best under pressure, whether in sport, art, or public service. The ability to transcend personal disappointment in service of larger values resonated with her own understanding of duty and responsibility. The champion's speech was equally moving but, in a different way. His words carried the wonder of someone who couldn't quite believe what had happened, mixed with genuine humility about the journey that had brought him to this moment. He thanked his team, his family, his opponent, and the crowd with the kind of authenticity that made clear this was not a rehearsed presentation but a genuine attempt to express gratitude for an overwhelming experience. "He's handling this perfectly," Kate observed, acknowledging the magnitude of the moment without losing sight of all the people who helped him reach it. "Rather like someone else I know," William replied quietly, his comment directed entirely to her. "Someone who understands how to accept recognition while sharing credit appropriately." Kate's slight blush at the compliment revealed that she understood the parallel he was drawing to her own evolution as a public figure. Over in a world where royal marriages are often scrutinized for duty over devotion, where every public appearance is analyzed for signs of strain or perfection, one summer afternoon at the All England Lawn Tennis Club would remind everyone why Prince William and Kate Middleton's love story captured hearts across the globe. Behind the polished smiles and coordinated outfits lies a deeper tale of two people who found their way back to each other through shared passions, quiet moments, and the simple joy of watching tennis together. What the cameras captured that day was more than just another royal engagement. It was a glimpse into the private world of Britain's future king and queen, where beneath the weight of crowns and expectations, a genuine romance continues to flourish. This is the story of how a perfect summer day at Wimbledon became a symbol of enduring love, and how two people navigating the most public relationship in Britain found their most authentic selves in the midst of 15,000 spectators. The magic wasn't in the grand gestures or royal protocol. It was in the stolen glances, the shared laughter, and the way they seemed to forget the world was watching. This is their story.